Hello, I'm John Connell. I'm going to be reading from my debut novel, The Ghost Estate. This chapter is set around Halloween and features the protagonist, Jared McQuaid.
The sky was clear, a perfect view of the stars. The plough, the bear, he could not recognise anymore. He had tried, but he could never see his own constellation in that same sky. The dots did not seem to join up for him. They walked through the wet grass towards the towering flames. He could see figures dancing and hear the tiny beat of music playing. 'Cause you do it to yourself, just you and no one else. Willie greeted them both with a hug and thrust a can of beer in McQuaid's hand. "Drink up," he said, and handed Sinead a can of cider. "For the lady," he said, with mock courtesy. "Most kind," she said, and bowed. There was something beautiful about the fading autumn and early winter nights in Ireland. A crispness in the air, the feel of coming ice. McQuaid could smell timber burning and hear the popping of old paint cans as they exploded in the fire. By times Willie would run towards the heat of the flame and throw on a dash of petrol, making it jump and roar. The children screamed with joy at each lunge, and he was emboldened and repeated the action again and again to their giddy laughs. Soon more figures appeared as the party filled out, and a tin-foil barbecue was produced and sausages were fried. Sinead stood beside him, and they both looked into the flames, transfixed. He felt her clasp his hand, and he squeezed it in response. Her red hair flowed now in the breeze of the flames, and she looked to his eyes like some star. "Remember when we used to get excited about Halloween?" she said, pointing at the running children. "Yes, it was always a great night," he said. "It's our night," she said, and kissed him. "Do you know what the fires are for?" she asked, as their lips parted. "Something about the dead, isn't it? It's to find your true love. You burn the fires and wait until the embers die out." "I don't need to wait, sure," he answered, and then wished he had not uttered such foolish words. "Neither do I," she said, and kissed him again. She suddenly broke away and ran towards the bonfire and the children. "Come on, we'll have a dance," she laughed, her hair flying higher in the wind. He watched her a moment, how wild and free she looked. She brought a lightness to him, and how could he hold resentment tonight, not with her like this? He moved after her, and they began to dance and howl around the flames. They took the children by the hand and formed little rings and spun and spun and spun. He pulled her close, and their bodies rubbed against one another. He could smell her perfume, and it excited him, bringing him to life. She smiled and kissed him and then ran away again, looking back for him to chase. It was to be a game of cat and mouse tonight, and he did not know which or who he was. Declan appeared with a shout from behind a watery ditch, his feet soaked, his face covered in muck and sweat, a witch's hat upon his head. "Well," he said, "I'm fucking drenched." "Here's to bio now," roared Willie, as they moved to greet him. "I was at your place waiting for you," Declan said to McQuaid. "Ah, fuck, I forgot to go home." "I had to walk," Declan said, with a slight murmur of anger. "I'm sorry, Sinead and I came straight here." "That doesn't matter a fuck to me," Declan began to smile. "I got this in return." He produced Ned's bottle of putching like a trophy. "Oh, for the love of Christ, we won't walk straight after that devil's piss," Willie said. "She kept me warm through them fields and gripes," said Declan. He took a large mouthful and smiled. He and McQuaid laughed and embraced. "I'm sorry I forgot you," McQuaid said. "No problem. Now take a drop to make it up to me." Declan foisted the bottle into his hands. McQuaid hesitated, remembering the story of his father lost in the fields after a drink of that poison one night. "A wee drop off and saved a good animal," Declan said with a wag of his finger. "Or killed a man," chimed Willie. Suddenly Sinead seized the bottle from their hands. "It won't hurt me so," she said, and drank a mouthful. Willie cheered and clapped. "That's a woman right there," he said. She handed it back to McQuaid, and with the pressure of eyes upon him now, he was forced to drink. It was a burning liquid. He could feel it flow down his throat and sit in his stomach. He knew they would all be drunk in a matter of minutes. "Angel's piss," said Willie, wiping his mouth. As the fire grew higher, so did the party. The children went home, and the adults now danced more wildly, the music playing in the darkness, out over the empty fields and countryside, over the cattle in their slatted sheds, and the elderly women who'd taken their dogs and cats in for the night. A man could feel alive this evening, he thought, and yes, he told himself, he was alive surely. The music played on, and they were now drunk. They were not tired, their bodies and limbs coursed with energy and passion. He took the sausages in his hands, bare and hot, and ate them with gluttony, savouring their greasy taste. "Yahoo! Yup!" Declan roared, his Willie poured yet more petrol on the flame and set his boot alight to the shout of the group.
Pulling McQuaid to one side, Sinead took him to the darkness, to the shadows. "Take me away," she said in a breathy voice, the hint of her bust now showing through her loosened top as beads of sweat rolled down her face from all their play. "Where?" "The manor house," she announced. "I want you to take me in the old house. It's Ihahauna, and I haven't got my fright yet. I want to do it somewhere exciting." "Well, it's better than the van," he laughed nervously. But she did not laugh.
She grabbed his hair with a furiousness and kissed him with a fiery, cider-soaked breath. "Take me there," she said, breaking away from his lips.
He did not question her. This was no moment for jokes. She was filled with an animal passion as he was now, and he would take her wherever she wanted to go, wherever it took to be with her, to feel her. They ran back to the van, not saying goodbye to the group, and kissed as he turned the key and drove towards the estate. The security gates were locked, as he'd expected, and he lifted her up over the wall. She had become a wild woman this night. She had never once come to any of his jobs before, nor, he thought, to any construction site, and yet she did not flinch at the wire or the walls or the puddles of muck as they traipsed through an old oak forest with only the light from his mobile to guide their way. When they reached the manor house, she opened the door and led him through the rooms. "So this is the place," she said, her voice echoing through the hallways. "This is it," he said, and kissed her lips. He was trembling now in cold and excitement, her lips firm, then soft, her tongue a wet mass he could never pin down. "Bring me to the landlord's bedroom." "But there's nothing there." "It doesn't matter, we'll be there," she said, and took him by the hand. They made their way upstairs, moving slowly through the old house, but there was no thought of darkness now or ghosts. There was only flesh. The floorboards creaked as he guided his hand against the wall, looking for the master bedroom, for Lafoyle's room. He opened the door and shone his mobile around the space. It was beyond bare. There was nothing left of that grandeur, that former life. Sinead walked to the window and opened the shutters. The bright moonlight shone through the darkness, and he could see her face framed by the glow. By the light of the moon he took her in the room, and there in the corner was the picture of Lafoyle, lost as it had been. It was found again here, of all places, in his bedroom. It seemed somehow more complete, the face a brighter hue, as if somehow restored, and the eyes, those eyes had grown stronger. "Kiss me," Sinead called, and he made to tell her of the painting. "That's..." But as he pointed to the canvas, she pounced into his arms. There were no other words spoken. Placed their jackets on the floor to make their lover's nest, and she cried out wild cries as they tossed and turned. It was beyond love-making this night. This night it was animal carnality in all its earthly pleasures. And he did not care who saw, not Willie or Riley or the ghostly eyes of Lafoyle. Her sighs sang through the walls of the house and spoke of a joy that the building had not known in so long, so long. They spoke of love, young love, and its heady embrace, its binding ecstasy. They sang again and again through the night, as they found each other's pleasure there amidst the damp and mould. As they gathered their belongings to go, he was giddy with excitement. "Jesus, I don't know where that came from," he said. "Never you mind," she said, and kissed him, but more softly now. "But God, that was wild." "Sometimes," she began. "Yes," he returned. "Sometimes you just... well, you have to fuck," she said and laughed. "Well, glad I was around for that," he said, and kissed her now. "It's been a while since someone was happy here," she said, looking around the room as they stood up to leave, looking now to the haggard canvas,